What if Tensura, melting the eternal frost? By JackDaWeb on Wattpad. This story depicts an alternate timeline wherein Velzard attends Walpurgis after sensing Veldora's presence. She subsequently meets our protagonist and becomes interested in him after his display at the meeting. After thinking for a bit, she decides to move to Tempest and becomes a close ally of Rimuru. Rimuru and Velzard will sometimes be out of character, as it is unavoidable. Our protagonist will be more rational and have an actual spine, while Velzard will not be as cold and ruthless as her canon counterpart. Besides, Velzard is missing a lot of characterization, so the author decided to write his own interpretation of her personality based on the original light novel. This fanfic will follow the main story beats from the original light novel, meaning some arcs will be glossed over if there are very few changes. Chapter 1. A World Frozen in Time. Third-person POV. The room erupted in blinding light as Malim's attack seemed to strike Rimuru directly. Everyone held their breath, tension thick in the air. To the onlookers, it seemed unthinkable that anyone could survive such a devastating strike from Malim, the destroyer herself. But as the light gradually faded, a silhouette emerged, taking shape within the dissipating smoke. When the haze cleared, it was not Rimuru who stood there, but a tall, muscular figure with wild blonde hair, standing unscathed. He bore only minor traces of the impact, which left the crowd stunned in disbelief. Rimuru's POV. This is it. I'm for sure dead. There's no way in hell I'm tanking an attack from Malim. My hands instinctively moved, trying desperately to shield my body. An explosion rocked the entire room, and I thought for sure I was disintegrating into ashes. It felt like an earthquake. Arg, what the hell? It hurts. It hurts. An all-too-familiar voice shouted in agony. I blinked, my vision still adjusting, as I glanced up to see the source of the pain cries. The towering figure before me was clutching the back of his head, his face showing discomfort. What the hell? How did Veldora get here? Everything hit me like a truck. Veldora wasn't supposed to be here. He was supposed to stay back and protect Tempest. I had no idea he could just appear like this without a formal summons. However, I may be giving him too much leeway. There's simply no way this guy could sit still for that long. I let out a sigh of mixed relief and annoyance. I'll give him credit where it's due. He took the full force of Malim's attack, and that saved my life. For now, I'll let the complaints slide. Oi, what are you doing here? I thought I told you to stay behind and protect Tempest. I called out, raising my voice to snap him out of his theatrics. I made my instructions pretty straightforward, so his unannounced arrival was more than a little concerning. Veldora, ever the dramatist, brushed my words aside with an exaggerated wipe of his eyes. Rimuru, how could you leave me hanging like that? He asked, his voice thick with mock sorrow. I raised an eyebrow, baffled. What are you talking about? I questioned. He promptly leaned in, his brows furrowing in frustration, and held up a manga book. It was the latest volume I'd recreated for his entertainment. As expected, his arrival wasn't a response to an emergency or a sense that I was in danger. No, it was about his next reading fix. Where's the next volume, Rimuru? In the name of the mighty storm dragon, I demand you give it to me now, he shouted, pointing at the cover with a look of indignant outrage. I couldn't help but shake my head. So much for heroics. And just when I thought he might have shown up out of concern, he just wanted the next part of the story. But hey, since he's here now, I might as well make the best of it. If he's eager for manga, maybe I can have him keep Malim distracted. It'd give me the chance I need to deal with Clayman's underlings. I'll give you the next volume if you do me a favor first, I replied, pointing a finger at him. Veldora tilted his head, curious. What favor? He asked. Keep Malim busy for me, I said, pointing over his shoulder. Veldora turned, and Malim appeared frozen in equal parts shock and confusion at his sudden appearance. Whether she was astonished by his arrival or by the fact that he withstood her attack was hard to say. Evolution into an awakened demon lord. During this evolution, due to the presence of storm dragon Vimalim, Veldora mused, his expression softening with recognition. Oh, my eldest brother's only child. I never thought I'd meet her here. She sure hasn't grown up at all, he commented, nodding firmly. Very well, leave her to me, he affirmed. Wait, did he just say Malim is his niece? So, Veldora has siblings? I pushed my curiosity aside. Now is not the time to unravel that bombshell. By the way, Malim's under Clayman's control right now, so go easy on her, okay? I informed him. Before he could respond, I dashed off, leaving him to handle Malim. Now that Veldora was dealing with her, I could turn my focus on Clayman and his cronies. His sudden arrival might have been unplanned, but for once, his chaos was a blessing in disguise. Thank you, Swarm Brother. Velzard's POV. I lay stretched out on my bed, flipping through one of the many books Rain had brought me from her journeys to various human nations. The pages were worn, probably scavenged from some old library, but it added a charm I couldn't resist. There is little to do around here. Perhaps I should have accepted Guy's invitation to attend that Demon Lord meeting. He seemed unusually excited for this Walpurgis. Though knowing him, it's likely due to the drama rather than the topics themselves. The last time I went, they spent hours debating pointless subjects, like naming their exclusive club. If I remember correctly, they didn't even settle on a name. Humans eventually started calling them the 10 Great Demon Lords, and they just rolled with it. Honestly, humans can be rather amusing. Just as I let myself drift into a rare moment of relaxation, a powerful spike of mana shattered the quiet. The aura was unmistakable. It was intense, formidable, yet carefully restrained, with the telltale signature of a true dragon. And there was only one person wielding such a potent and distinct aura. The realization hit me hard, and I felt a smile tug at my lips as I sat up. Long time no see, little brother. It appears that Veldora has made significant progress in controlling his energy. There was a time when I could instantly recognize his presence. But now, it took me a moment to fully identify him. I suppose those 300 years he spent in unlimited imprisonment have done him some good. Perhaps he has even reflected on his behavior in there. An elder sister could only hope. With this new development piquing my interest, I decided to visit Walpurgis and see what chaos Veldora was stirring up. I teleported directly into the meeting chamber using spatial transfer, appearing beside Guy, who was lounging casually in his seat. Instantly, the sounds of explosions and fierce impacts filled the air, catching my attention. I glanced toward the center, where a barrier enclosed an ongoing battle. There, locked in a brutal clash, was Malim herself, my fiery niece. I seemed to have arrived right in the middle of an unexpected family reunion. Since I'd cloaked my presence, the demon lords and their attendants had yet to notice my arrival. But Guy, ever sharp, sensed me immediately. Oh, now, that's a surprise. I thought you weren't interested in Walpurgis, Velzard, he remarked, his voice casual yet laced with intrigue. I met his gaze with a faint, icy smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. I simply sensed my little brother's presence here and decided to join in. Or is that a problem, Guy? My tone was sweet, yet held a dangerous edge. Not at all, he replied quickly, a nervous smile slipping onto his face before diverting. His attention returned to the fierce battle in the barrier, a cacophony of chaos and power. Your little brother's having a fine time playing with Malim over there, he said. A giggle slipped past my lips as I watched him try to keep his composure. I never tire of rattling him like this. It's become one of my favorite pastimes. I can see that, I replied, feigning mild interest as I turned my attention back to the sparring duo. I'll watch for now and see how this unfolds, I said. Guy gave a subtle nod before focusing on the fight again. Observing Veldora in action, I immediately saw how much he had grown. No longer was he simply relying on raw magical output or brute force. His movements were precise, his strikes measured, and he was far from the reckless brawler I remembered. Each motion harmonized with his immense power, and his attacks flowed with a level of finesse I hadn't expected. Impressive. To say he's improved would be an understatement. As he is now, you might even give Velgrind a serious challenge and perhaps even outmatch her if he fights in earnest. Say, I paused, leaning a little closer to Guy. Don't you think Veldora has improved tremendously since we last saw him? My voice held genuine curiosity, and I was sure Guy had already noticed. He nodded, a glint of acknowledgement flashing in his crimson eyes. Yeah, the brat's gotten surprisingly good. I doubt we could handle him as easily as we once did, he admitted honestly. I'd have to agree. I wonder if he can move within this suspended world now. I pondered aloud, letting my thoughts drift to the limitless potential my little brother was unlocking right before our eyes. As Malim and Veldora's clash continued, I leaned back, intrigued by what this newfound strength of his might mean for all of us. Guy and I have always defeated Veldora easily due to time stop, an ability that ensures victory if the opponent can't move in a world where time itself halts. And despite embodying acceleration, even my little sister, Velgrind, can't break free from frozen time. To control that level of temporal power is to stand on a level above mere speed, something even she cannot rival. If Veldora can move within stop time, he'll undoubtedly surpass her. Ha, I hadn't thought about that. Shall we test it out? Guy asked, a mischievous glint in his eye. His half-joking tone belied the genuine curiosity he shared with me. I could sense he wanted to see Veldora's growth as much as I did. Smirking, I replied, if you don't mind, I certainly will. The grin on my face shifted, taking on a more sinister edge. Go right ahead, he encouraged with a wave of his hand. Though I hardly needed his permission, his approval gave me an extra thrill. I activated Time Stop for my ultimate skill, Lord of Patience, Gabriel. Instantly, the world lost all color as the very gears of time stilled. A deathly quiet settled around us as everyone froze mid-motion, and the intense battle raging inside the barrier halted completely. And to my knowledge, only Guy, Degrul, and I can move within the suspended world. Now, little brother, let's see what you're truly capable of. What the? Guy, did you activate Time Stop? Degrul's voice cut through the silence, surprised by the change. Being one of the few able to move, he stood from his seat, his heavy footsteps echoing as he approached us. How rude. He hasn't even noticed I'm here yet. Nah, but you could work on your perception, Guy replied, smirking, casting a sly glance in my direction. Degrul followed his gaze, his eyes finally landing on me. A look of confusion crossed his face. Pardon me, I didn't know there was another here who could stop time, he said, scratching the back of his head. But who might you be? He asked. I suppose I should introduce myself, I replied, my tone light, yet carrying an undeniable weight. Releasing a tiny fraction of my dragon spirit hockey, my presence flooded the colorless space in a violent outburst, strong enough to let him feel the depth of my power. I am Velzard, the Frost Dragon. A pleasure to meet you, Degrul-san. I greeted, offering a light bow. Degrul's face shifted to one of shock, his posture stiffening as he quickly returned the bow, now far more respectful. Velzard-san. It's a pleasure to meet you as well, he replied, clearly shocked. Pardon my impudence. I didn't sense your presence earlier. He apologized. Scaring others with my presence never gets old. Guy, however, simply sighed, shaking his head at my antics. Did you really have to do that? He asked, exasperated. Oh, come now, Guy. It's just a bit of fun. I flashed him a light smile before addressing Degrul, my voice softening. And there's no need to be so formal with me, Degrul-san, I assured him. He relaxed visibly, letting out a breath. Thank you, Velzard-sama. If I may ask, why did you activate Time Stop? He asked, his curiosity evident. Because we're about to witness something remarkable, I replied, my gaze shifting to Veldora, now frozen mid-motion within the barrier. Veldora, Degrul echoed, his gaze following mine. Now that you mention it, he's vastly improved since I last sparred with him. He said, A brief pause fell over us as DeGrul processed everything. He then turned to us, curiosity coloring his expression. Do you think he might actually be able to move within the suspended world? He asked. I nodded, a flicker of excitement beneath my composed expression. It's only a theory, Guy added with a shrug, but it doesn't hurt to test. He continued. I see. DeGrul's eyes gleamed with intrigue. I never used time stop in our spars, so this will be something new to witness. He commented. The three of us stood, anticipation building, as we watched for any sign of movement for Veldora. Though he remained frozen, I sensed a subtle shift, a latent awareness. It was a signal that he was perceiving the suspended world. Moments passed, and then, to my delight, Veldora began to move. Incredible. He's come so far. That bastard actually did it. Guy's eyes lit with disbelief, his voice filled with genuine excitement. He can move. That puts him officially above Velgrind, at least for now. He announced confidently. Indeed, Guy was right. Veldora's growth had propelled him beyond my little sister's power. Being able to move within the suspended world wasn't just an improvement. No, it was a transformation that marked his place as a true dragon in a league of his own. Quahaha, I'm not sure what just happened, but I just did something cool. Veldora's proud declaration echoed through the room, his voice brimming with excitement. Fufufu, seeing him so overjoyed, is simply adorable. He scanned the room, his eyes soon landing on me. For a moment, his confidence wavered, and his body froze before trembling intensely. Fei Feljartne, what B brings you here? He stammered, his usual bravado replaced by a nervous edge. Sigh, his fear of me is understandable, though it stings a little. Don't mind me, Veldora Quinn. I'm just here to watch, I replied, keeping my tone polite. I gave him a warm smile, letting him know he had nothing to worry about. He relaxed ever so slightly, the tension in his frame fading. Despite his apprehension, I'm proud of Veldora's growth. He's matured, if only a little. He's also becoming more formidable and more fitting of a true dragon. Yet, deep down, he's still the same Veldora, as spirited and unpredictable as ever. I see, he muttered, glancing around. So this is the suspended world you've always talked about, he said. The awe on his face as he observed the frozen room was priceless. This was, after all, his first encounter with stop time. MHM, and I'm incredibly proud of you for managing to move within it. Even Velgrind hasn't reached that level yet, I replied. Veldora's eyes widened, clearly surprised by the fact. Do you also possess an ultimate skill? I asked, curious about his sudden leap in power. At my question, Veldora's eyes lit up, and with a wide grin, he burst into laughter. Quahaha, of course I do. My ultimate skill is Lord of Investigation, Faust. His booming voice shook the room with confidence, as if he'd been waiting for this moment to show off. Interesting. So, you wield an ultimate skill as well, Guy said, nodding enthusiastically. That makes sense, considering you can move in the suspended world, he added. Guy's words held weight. He's always regarded ultimate skill wielders highly, as they stood at the apex, capable of bending nature's laws. Still, much depends on the skill's user and their proficiency with its power. Well then, I chuckled. I suppose it's time to lift, time stop, and let you get back to your playtime with Malim. With my question answered, I was ready to release the suspension. Keeping time, stop consumes substantial energy, so it's best used sparingly. Wait a moment, Velzard, could you hold it just a little longer? Veldora requested, his tone surprising me. I blurted. We're about to see something even more interesting. His tone carried a rare seriousness, piquing my curiosity. Something more interesting? What would he be planning? Ada, where you up to, Veldora Quinn? I asked, studying him intently. I'm not the only one who's going to be able to move in this suspended world, he replied, pointing at a maiden with striking platinum blue hair. Does he think that person can move too? Today has been one surprise after another. Fufufu coming here was absolutely worth it. For real. I knew he was capable, but for you to say he can move in time stop is impressive. Guy said, his gaze sharpened as he studied Rimuru, newfound interest glinting in his eyes. It seems the ability to move in stop time won't be so rare soon enough. DeGrul joked, earning a light chuckle from Guy. The four of us waited in eager silence, watching as Rimuru slowly began to perceive the suspended world. His adaptability was uncanny, especially for a newly awakened demon lord. It wouldn't be long before he took the next step, and just as I anticipated, not even a minute later, Rimuru began to move. Incredible. Veldora's hunch was spot on. Just who is this person? Without missing a beat, Veldora flew straight over and slapped Rimuru on the back. Quahaha! I knew you could do it, Rimuru, as expected of my sworn brother. Veldora exclaimed proudly, his laughter filling the room. Sworn brother? It appears that Veldora and Rimuru share a strong bond. I never would have expected my little brother to call anyone that. Ow! What was that for, old man? Rimuru yelped, rubbing his back and shooting Veldora with an irritated look. Something unexpected happened, that's all. But hey, we can both move and stop time now. Thank you, Velzard nay. Veldora grinned, turning to me in gratitude. I offered him a small, approving smile. You have a sister? Rimuru asked, his head tilted as he finally noticed me. His gaze turned in my direction, curiosity evident in his expression. To catch him off guard, I teleported to the other side of the room, just at the edge of the barrier where he and Veldora stood. Era, you certainly are an interesting one. I wasn't expecting you to be able to move and stop time, I said, offering him a nod of honest approval. When did you get there? Rimuru jumped, clearly startled. Scratching his head, he sighed. Geez, are you really just out here scaring new people? You know, you could at least introduce yourself first. He murmured, stepping back to regain some composure. His reaction was adorable, I must say. Fair enough, I said, starting with a light bow. My name is Velzard, the Frost Dragon, and I am the eldest of the 3 living true dragons. It's a pleasure to meet you, Demon Lord Rimuru. Chapter 2, Achieving New Heights. Rimuru's POV. Eldest? Living true dragons? Veldora had an older brother, but now an elder sister stood before me. This only deepened the mystery of his family. If true dragons were as powerful as Veldora kept telling me, it might be time to ask Raphael for a more complete answer. Raphael-sensei, what exactly are true dragons? True dragons are the highest existence in all of existence. They are nigh invincible avatars representing the forces of nature, dubbed the pillars of creation. Whoa, so they're at the absolute top of this world's hierarchy. I really lucked out to have Veldora on my side. Wait, Velzard mentioned being the eldest living true dragon, right? Does that mean there were more of them in the past? There are 4 true dragons in existence. The first is the Star King Dragon, Veldonava, the eldest and the strongest of them all, responsible for creating the multiverse. The second eldest and currently strongest of the living true dragons is Velzard, the Frost Dragon, who stands before you. Following her is Velgrind, the Scorched Dragon, residing in the east. And last among them is the youngest, the Storm Dragon, Veldora. As for why Velzard said, living true dragons, it is because Veldonava perished long ago and has yet to return. Hold on, Veldora's elder brother, who is also Malim's father, is the creator of the multiverse? Correct. That explains a lot about Malim. Her ridiculous strength and absurdity stem from the fact that she's literally the child of the creator. Veldora? Well, his playful personality now makes perfect sense since he's the youngest, after all, and with Veldonava gone, that makes Velzard the eldest living sibling. Which reminds me, Raphael are all true dragon siblings. They're not related by blood, as true dragons are spiritual beings. However, they consider each other siblings. I see. Good to know, Raphael-sensei. Thanks again. You're welcome, Master. Also, Velzard mentioned something about stopping time. Is that what happened earlier when I suddenly lost all sensation? And how am I able to move in stop time now? When Velzard activated time stop, Master momentarily lost all sensation and the ability to move. However, I remained unaffected and began analyzing the phenomenon. Upon further investigation, I observed that certain beings can interact with something known as information particles. These particles are key to existing and functioning within stop time. While observing these particles is relatively simple, direct interaction is a complex process. Stopping time is such a broken ability. It's fine in manga or anime, but how do you fight against something like that in real life? Fortunately, a solution came through observing Veldora. He was eventually able to manipulate his own information particles, allowing him to move and stop time. After studying his approach, I adapted it and successfully evolved you, Master, into a digital life form. You are now a being capable of manipulating and interacting with information at a fundamental level. Amazing. Once again, you remind me of how incredible you are, partner. Ha ha ha. Sometimes, I think you might be way too good for me. Not at all. I exist solely for you, Master. Her response filled me with a warm feeling, and I couldn't help but smile. Raphael has done so much for me, and I don't know how far I would have come without her help. Sure, she's technically a part of me, but I can't help seeing her as an individual with her own thoughts. Maybe I should give her a name someday. Well, that can wait for later. I should pay attention now, since I'm probably spacing out again. Fufufu, you seem to be lost in thought, Rimuru. Velzard pointed out, her tone teasing. I let out a small sigh. Yep, I definitely spaced out again. Sorry about that, Velzard-san. I was thinking about something Veldora mentioned earlier. I replied, scratching the back of my head, a bit embarrassed. Oh, would you mind sharing? She asked, curious, while Veldora immediately tensed beside me. What are you talking about, Rimuru? He asked, looking at me nervously. Is he afraid of his sister? Just that thing you mentioned earlier about Malim being your elder brother's daughter, and that Velzard-san is your elder sister. I didn't know you had siblings. I replied casually with a shrug. Is that so? I guess I never brought it up before. Veldora said, his voice relaxing, but still looking like he'd just dodged a bullet. You should have told your friend more about your family, Veldora-kun, Velzard replied playfully, making him tense up again. Well, Rimuru never asked. I just got unsealed recently, and before that, I was mostly in his subspace, he said, scratching his head awkwardly, clearly flustered. So, Rimuru is the one who helped you break the seal, then? Velzard asked, her gaze shifting to me with an expectant look. Yes, Veldora exclaimed, his chest puffing out in pride. It took 2 years to break the seal, much faster than we thought. Rimuru originally estimated it would take at least a century. Thanks to his evolution, though, the time was drastically reduced. He explained, his tone filled with enthusiasm. Velzard's expression softened with a satisfied smile, as she turned to me with an approving nod. Thank you, Rimuru-san. I was concerned that Veldora-kun's release might lead to another incident. However, it seems he has matured during his time with you. I can rest assured, knowing you'll keep a close eye on him from here on out. Her tone held genuine gratitude. He. No problem, Velzard-san. And yes, you don't need to worry about Veldora. Under my watch, there won't be any rampaging. I assured her, feeling flustered as I scratched the back of my head. With a nod of approval, Velzard stepped back from the barrier, raising her right fist into the air. I've taken enough of your time. I'll let you both get back to your battle. Good luck, you two. After opening her hand, all colors flooded back into the world as time resumed. Velzard waved at us one last time before vanishing in a flash, reappearing at one of the doorways. Seeing her effortless control over time and space reinforced just how powerful she really is. She is definitely not someone I'd want as an enemy. Once time resumed, The rest of the room remained oblivious to what had happened, with only a select few even capable of noticing the gap. Scanning the room, I spotted Malim looking confused, her eyes darting around. From her perspective, it probably looked like Veldora had just teleported to my side. Then again, knowing her, she might even be able to move and stop time, and is just pretending not to. Setting that thought aside, I had more pressing matters to attend to. Moving beside Veldora, I placed a hand on his shoulder. "Keep distracting Malim, Veldora. I've got some other nuisances to deal with." My tone turned serious, signaling that I meant business. "Quahaha, you got it, Rimuru. Just don't forget your promise," he replied, extending his fist. I met his fist with a solid bump before we both went our separate ways. Third-person POV. Veldora and Malim continued their sparring session, their supposed serious exchange devolving as Malim let go of any pretense of restraint and started having fun. Meanwhile, Rimuru busied himself with other matters, including lifting the curse that Clayman had placed on the nine-headed fox. Elsewhere, Beretta made quick work of Clayman's doll, reducing it to rubble without breaking a sweat. Cheyenne decisively overpowered Clayman in her usual flair, exposing him as all bark and no bite. The room quieted as Malim, her eyes alight with mischief, revealed that she had never been under Clayman's control in the first place. The revelation left the spectators stunned, with Rimuru among the most surprised. Adding to the shock, Carrion emerged from hiding perfectly fine and alive. The barrage of surprises left Clayman reeling, his fragile composure crumbling as he lashed out in desperate threats to those he felt had wronged him. But his bravado quickly crumbled as Cheyenne silenced him with brutal efficiency, dismembering his body and leaving his still-living form helpless and broken on the ground. With the show over, Guy dispelled the barrier around the chamber, allowing it to shrink back to its original size. The demon lords gathered around Clayman's dismembered body, discussing the events that had transpired with casual indifference. Their attendants and Velzard, now standing by the doorway, remained silent observers. And because Velzard concealed her aura entirely, her presence went unnoticed by anyone who hadn't already sensed her arrival. As the demon lords spoke among themselves, a sudden burst of aura surged from Clayman's shattered body. In a final, desperate act, he forced himself to awaken into an awakened demon lord. During this evolution, due to the presence of the storm dragon, instinctively, everyone stepped back, but they still regarded him with little more than mild interest, sensing he posed no real threat. Rimuru stepped forward and offered to finish him off, both to cement his place among the demon lords and end the matter cleanly. With silent agreement from the other demon lords, he erected a barrier identical to the one Guy had used, trapping Clayman and himself inside. The ensuing battle was hardly a clash of equals. Despite his newfound strength, Clayman was no more than an ant trying to overcome a human. In the end, he refused to reveal the names of those he had been working with, meeting his end at the hands of Rimuru. With a cold finality, Rimuru activated his ultimate skill, Lord of Gluttony, Beelzebuth, devouring Clayman entirely. His defeat marked Rimuru's official ascension to Demon Lord status, and the display of power earned him the respect of the others present. With Clayman dealt with, Walpurgis proceeded without further disruption. From this point on, the world would witness three significant shifts in power. First, Demon Lords Carrion and Fry chose to step down from their positions, offering to become Malim's subordinates. Their decision surprised Malim, but also reflected the evolving alliances among the Demon Lords. The second shift came with the Great Jura Forest officially becoming part of Demon Lord Rimuru Tempest's domain, a vast territory with a mighty storm dragon, Veldora, serving as its guardian deity. Lastly, with only 8 Demon Lords now seated on the council, the name 10 Great Demon Lords no longer fit. After some convincing from Guy Crimson, Rimuru reluctantly agreed to bestow on the council a new title. Moving forward, the Demon Lord Council would be known as Octagram, the 8-star Demon Lords. The members of Octagram, along with their titles, were as follows: Guy Crimson, Lord of Darkness; Malim Nava, Destroyer; Ramiris, Labyrinth Fairy; DeGruel, Earthquake; Luminous Valentine, Queen of Nightmares; Dino, Sleeping Ruler; Leon Cromwell, Platinum Devil; Rimuru Tempest, Soul Devourer. Rimuru himself chose the title Soul Devourer, paying homage to his unique ability to consume and assimilate powers, a quality that earned the approval of his fellow Demon Lords. With these changes solidified, the Walpurgis meeting came to an official close. As the gathering dispersed, Luminous Valentine and Leon Cromwell opted to leave immediately, uninterested in the upcoming banquet. The others, however, remained, ready to enjoy the post-meeting feast. Velzard's POV. The meeting had ended, yet I lingered on the sidelines, observing the aftermath. I don't regret coming here in the slightest, as this gathering has proven to be far more intriguing than I expected. Not only did I reunite with my little brother, Veldora, and witness his recent growth, but I also encountered the newly seated Demon Lord, Rimuru Tempest. Rimuru is an unusual existence, even by our standards. He gained the ability to move in the suspended world, shortly after Veldora did, which is an impressive feat worthy of admiration. Not only did he help Veldora escape his seal, but he also contributed to his growth, forming a bond so close that Veldora now calls him his sworn brother. I'm considering accompanying them back to their nation. There's little for me to do on the Ice Continent, and something tells me that Rimuru's actions will set off a cascade of events, each more significant than the last. It feels as if the balance of this world is teetering on the edge, and I'd rather be there when it shifts. Rimuru Tempest, I want to be part of whatever you're planning for this world. Before making any final decisions, though, I probably should consult Guy. He may not object to my choice, but it's only fair to get his opinion. After all, long ago, my elder brother entrusted me with watching over Guy since he serves as the world's mediator, and I've kept my promise through the millennia, ensuring he fulfilled his role. We've made our home in a ruined castle on the northern continent, transforming it into our base of operations. The land was barren, devoid of life, so I released my aura freely. Over time, it froze the entire castle and, eventually, the whole continent. The Frost Palace and the Ice Continent are resilient. My long absence won't thaw the place. But even if some of the ice should melt, I could easily return, and it would restore itself in no time. With my decision all but made, I walked over to Guy, who was still idly watching the remaining Demon Lords converse over trivial matters. Guy, I have a question. I began, resting my hand on his shoulder to get his attention. Oh, what is it? He asked, turning to face me, his expression one of curiosity. I've decided to accompany Rimuru Tempest and Veldora to their nation. I wanted to hear your thoughts or see if you'd oppose my decision, though I doubt you could do much even if you did. I said, my tone as steady as ever. Guy raised an eyebrow, a flash of surprise crossing his face before he regained his usual composure, chuckling. Ha ha, did that slime really catch your interest that much? Or is this about keeping Veldora in check? He asked, his tone light. As expected, he wasn't particularly fazed, though I could tell he was genuinely curious. A bit of both, I replied with a faint smile. There was a brief pause. Are you against the idea? I asked, my voice softening. Not all. You do as you please. But what about the Ice Continent and the Frost Palace? Without your steady aura, wouldn't all the ice eventually melt? He asked casually, though I knew he'd grown attached to the frozen landscape surrounding us. Don't worry. It would take centuries for even a drop to thaw. And if it does, I can return whenever you'd like to freeze it over again. I assured him confidently. Then there is no problem, he said, nodding in approval. You should go talk to those two, though. Let them know, he added, inclining his head toward Rimuru and Veldora. Nodding, I made my way to where they stood. Rimuru's expression shifted to surprise as I approached, while Veldora, only looked puzzled. "Oh, Velzard-san, what brings you here? And, thanks again for letting us experience stop time." Rimuru greeted me, bowing slightly, gratitude evident in his eyes. Well, that's a surprise. I hadn't expected him to be so respectful. I replied with a small smile and a nod. "MHM, thanks to you, Rimuru and I have become even stronger," Veldora boasted, his voice booming with clear pleasure. "Some things never change, Veldora. Then may I ask a favor in return for my help?" I asked, keeping my tone casual yet graceful. Rimuru blinked, clearly caught off guard. "It's an honor to be asked a favor from the white ice dragon herself. Though I'm not sure if I have much to offer, Velzard-san. Still, whatever it is, I'll do my best," he replied earnestly, his expression bright yet determined. So humble, perhaps too humble. Don't sell yourself short, Rimuru-san. Being able to move and stop time is no small feat. Not my younger sister or Malim can do that yet, I said. Humility is a fine trait and certainly preferable to arrogance, but one should also never underestimate one's own capabilities. Is that so? I'm honored to hear such praise from you, Velzard-san," he replied, scratching his cheek meekly. "Yeah, Rimuru, don't be too modest," Veldora added, his hands resting on his hips proudly. Ignoring his encouragement, Rimuru stepped forward, his gaze meeting mine. "So what is it you'd like?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. "I'd like to accompany you both back home, and I intend to stay in your nation for a while. Is that all right with you, Rimuru-san, Veldora-kun?" I requested, my tone polite yet light-hearted. A long, awkward pause fell over us. Then, what? Chapter 3, Arrival in Tempest. Veldora's POV. "She can't be serious right now. Velzard's actually coming back to Tempest with us." "All right, calm down, Veldora. You're the almighty storm dragon. This is nothing. She's probably just curious about Rimuru, that's all. Her attitude toward me isn't quite what it once was, so I have nothing to worry about." "Ada, is there a problem, Veldora-kun?" Velzard asked with that unmistakably terrifying smile of hers. "Crap, gotta think. Salvage this quick." "And not at all, Velzard, nay. I was just a bit surprised, that's all," I replied, doing my best to sound confident. She laughed lightly in response. "Crisis averted. That should be more than all right. We'd love to have you in Tempest, Velzard-san," Rimuru said, his voice brimming with excitement. "For then I'll be in your care, Rimuru-san," Velzard replied graciously, extending her hand. "Ha ha, don't you mean we'll be in your care, Velzard-san? But I'll do my best to ensure you feel at home," Rimuru teased. Still as modest as ever, I see. "Nonetheless, thank you for accepting my sudden and selfish request," she said with a light bow. While they talked, I noticed Ranga and Cheyenne waiting by the dimensional door, looking rather pleased with themselves. Curious, I strode over to see what had them so happy. As expected of my master, he managed to win the favor of the frost dragon herself, Ranga said proudly, his tail swishing with excitement. Indeed, with Rimuru-sama's power and 2 true dragons on our side, our strength is boundless, Cheyenne declared confidently. Quahaha, Tempest was already invincible with Rimuru and me around. With Velzard here, too, any enemy would be hopelessly outmatched. I can only pity those fools who dare to oppose us. I boasted, feeling my own excitement bubble up. "Oh, Veldora-sama. Yes, indeed. Our nation's strength will be unmatched now. And thank you for shielding Master earlier. I'm not sure he'd have been able to withstand that powerful blow from Malim-sama," Ranga added gratefully, and Cheyenne nodded in agreement. "Of course, I protect my sworn brother," I declared loud and proud, even though, technically, that wasn't the real reason I showed up. After a while, Rimuru and Velzard walked over to us. "All right, everyone, let's head back home. We've got a special guest to welcome," Rimuru announced enthusiastically. "Yes," Ranga and Cheyenne responded in unison. With that, the Walpurgis meeting was officially over. The food and drinks they served were incredible. Hopefully, we'll have more feasts like that back in Tempest. I'm sure there'll be some kind of celebration. Maybe for Rimuru's new status as a demon lord, or even for Velzard's arrival. After stepping through the dimensional gate, we found ourselves on a hill overlooking Rimuru's city, the heart of Tempest. Even though I'd only been away briefly, the sight of the landscape filled me with a sense of peace. Its serenity and beauty were as refreshing as ever. I stood there momentarily, letting the sunlight warm my scales and inhaling the crisp, clean air. I glanced over at Velzard, watching as she took in the view. Her expression was one of quiet awe as her gaze roamed over the lush green grasslands, the clear blue sky above, and the distant mountain ranges skirting the great Jura forest. And there, nestled in the middle of it all, was the bustling city Rimuru had built, as vibrant and full of life as ever. This is incredible. I've seen similar landscapes before, but I'd nearly forgotten how breathtaking this world can be. Velzard murmured, her voice soft. I've been at the Frost Palace for so long now. As comfortable as it is, I don't see anything like this there, she added. Welcome to Tempest, Velzard-san. Rimuru chirped, and she turned to him, smiling and nodding in response. He glanced at Cheyenne and Ranga, then back at Velzard, as if already thinking of ways to make her feel at home. All right, everyone, let's go and give my people a triumphant return, Rimuru declared with a buoyant spirit. Yes, Rimuru-sama. Cheyenne and Ranga responded in perfect unison, their excitement palpable. Yash! Rimuru exclaimed, his enthusiasm clear as day. With a simple snap of his fingers, he activated spatial transfer, teleporting us to the heart of the city. As soon as we arrived, the citizens, sensing our presence, turned their attention toward us, their faces lighting up with joy. The sight brought an immediate smile to my sister's face, though her confusion was evident as the crowd began to stir. Welcome back, Rimuru-sama and Veldora-sama. The chorus of voices rang out, echoing through the air as they knelt in respect, creating a sea of reverent bows. Velzard blinked in surprise at the heartfelt reception while Rimuru surveyed his people, satisfaction radiating from him like warm sunlight. In the distance, I spotted Diablo and Rigard making their way toward us. Rigard's hurried strides were reminiscent of a child racing toward a long-awaited gift. Diablo followed with his usual calm demeanor. Rimuru-sama, congratulations on becoming a demon lord, Rigard exclaimed, his excitement bubbling over as he skidded to a stop before us and knelt. The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers swelling like a tide as Diablo reached us, kneeling beside Rigard. Kafufu, it is good to see you again, Master. Congratulations on your ascension and earning your rightful spot as a demon lord, Diablo praised earnestly. His words were genuine, yet they stirred a hint of confusion in Rimuru. Diablo, Rigard, how do you guys know what happened in Walpurgis? And aren't you supposed to be on a mission, Diablo? Did you come back because of some setbacks? Rimuru asked, his brow furrowing in bewilderment. Rest assured, Master, there have been no setbacks. The mission is now more or less accomplished. Everything is being taken care of as we speak, Diablo assured confidently, alleviating some of Rimuru's confusion. Rimuru straightened, bowing his head slightly in gratitude, causing Velzard to glance at the demon. A look of mild surprise crossed her features as she took in Diablo's presence. With a smug expression, Velzard turned to Rimuru. You really are fascinating, Rimuru-san. To think you have someone like him serving you. And to top it off, you even gave him a name. You're just full of surprises, she teased, her voice light and playful, leaving Rimuru both confused and a little embarrassed. Diablo noticed Velzard for the first time. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, though he quickly masked it with formality. I certainly wasn't expecting your arrival here. It's an honor to meet you, Velzard-sama, he said, bowing respectfully. I believe this is our first meeting, Noir-san. Or rather, Diablo-san, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. I've heard plenty about you from certain someone, she responded, her tone light. Indeed, my great master has bestowed upon me the beautiful name Diablo. I believe this certain someone is Guy Crimson, correct? He replied, already knowing the answer. Yes, you two go way back. I sometimes forget that the primordials are older than I am. Fufufu, you all have quite the reputation, she teased, amusement dancing in her eyes. Our power is nothing compared to the formidable true dragons, especially the strongest one currently alive, Diablo stated humbly. I wouldn't be too sure about that. Guy has fought me to a draw multiple times, you know? Neither of us fought seriously, so I don't know which one of us stands definitively above the other. From what he mentioned, you've also battled him to a draw multiple times before, correct? She inquired. That is true, but that was before Guy incarnated into the material world. We stood roughly on equal footing, battling several times in the underworld. He pursued strength while I explored other interests, which gradually widened the gap between us. Perhaps I could still give him a good fight today, and maybe even close that power gap, but that's a discussion for another time, he answered honestly, and Velzard nodded in understanding. She turned her gaze to Rimuru, who wore a look of deep contemplation, his mind racing with thoughts. Is he conversing with his skill, perhaps? As Diablo and Velzard delved deeper into their exchange, the citizens resumed their activities, and Rigard hurried back to the Capitol building. Rimuru's POV. I'm so lost right now. Diablo and Velzard know each other, but this is their first meeting. My mind is swimming with questions. What on earth is a primordial? Diablo and Guy are primordials and old rivals, which means Diablo is incredibly strong, stronger than I ever realized. I need to gather more information on these primordials. Raphael Sensei, what are the primordials? Answer. Primordials are the oldest and strongest of the demon race, existing since the dawn of time. 7 colors represent them, and all other demons fall into one of these 7 lineages. In order, they are Rouge, the red primordial, Blanc, the white primordial, Noir, the black primordial, Vert, the green primordial, Jaune, the yellow primordial, Violet, the purple primordial, and Blue, the blue primordial. Master has already met 4 of the 7 primordials. Diablo is Noir, Guy Crimson is Rouge, and his 2 maids, Rain and Misery, are Blue and Vert. Even more big shots. I really have a terrible habit of skimming through important information, but this only adds to my confusion about why Diablo is serving me. For someone of his caliber, he seems too enthusiastic about supporting a newly awakened demon lord. Still, I can sense his intentions are pure, so I have no reason to worry. In fact, this could mean that Tempest is more secure than ever, which is reassuring. Speaking of Diablo, I should clarify his mission later, so I'll call for a meeting with my subordinates. It'll also be an excellent opportunity to introduce Velzard to my team. Everyone, can you hear me? I asked my executives through a thought communication channel. Yes, we can hear you, Rimuru-sama, Benimaru replied promptly. Good. We're going to hold a meeting shortly, so please gather in the meeting hall, I requested. Understood. Welcome back, Rimuru-sama, Sui responded. We're on it. And it's great to have you back, Rimuru-sama, Shuna added. Indeed. Congratulations on officially being recognized as a demon lord. Rimuru-sama, Hakuru congratulated me, and the others echoed their praise. Yeah, thank you, everyone, I replied gratefully before terminating the communication. Rimuru-san, Velzard called softly, waving her hand in front of me. Igriegajis. Sorry about that. I was sending a message to my executives. I called them to discuss my new position as a demon lord and your stay in Tempest. I replied, scratching the back of my head as embarrassment crept in. Fufufu, I thought you were lost in thought again. You seem aloof at times, you know, she teased. Ihihia. It's a bad habit of mine, I admitted meekly, eliciting a giggle from Velzard. Embarrassment aside, I recalled what Raphael told me about the primordials and felt compelled to question Diablo. Anyway, about what you two were discussing. Diablo, I need to ask, why do you of all people are serving me? I asked, curiosity edging my voice. The revelation of Diablo's strength and unwavering commitment to me was baffling. Velzard, meanwhile, looked amused at my question. Diablo paused, a puzzled expression flitting across his features before he regained his composure. Because I believe Master will reveal the truth of this world to me. I sense immeasurable potential within you, Rimuru-sama. That potential will elevate you to the pinnacle of power, he proclaimed, confidence ringing in his tone. He sure is an oddball, just as Guy told me, but he is right. I'm sure Veldora noticed it long ago. Your potential is immense, and you've barely explored the tip of the iceberg. That's one of the reasons I wanted to stay here. To witness your development, Rimuru, Velzard teased, poking my cheek playfully, leaving me startled. What the hell is she doing? My cheeks flushed, and I instinctively backed away, which only caused Velzard to chuckle. What are you doing, Velzard-san? And what the hell are you on about, Diablo? I exclaimed, now overwhelmed with confusion and embarrassment thanks to Velzard's teasing. You'll understand in due time, Rimuru-san. By the way, I must admit, you are surprisingly cute when you fluster like this, Velzard said with a sly smile. Hey, come on, I protested, my voice squeaking as my face felt like it was on fire. As I gathered my composure, I felt my determination solidifying within me. I can't let these distractions deter me from my path. Anyway, thank you for your support, both of you. I'll do my best to prove your faith in me isn't misplaced, I declared, resolve surging through me. Just know that my intentions to serve you are pure, Master. I will do my best to fulfill any task you hand me, Diablo assured, his voice steady and reassuring. I let out a resigned sigh, feeling the weight of expectation settle on my shoulders. I'll be expecting more from you now then. With your capabilities, I assume almost any task should be doable. Also, stop with the master thing. Rimuru is fine, I said, trying to lighten the mood. Very well, Rimuru-sama, he affirmed, a hint of a smirk playing on his lips, and I nodded in response. Turning to Velzard, a question that had lingered in my mind since her arrival bubbled to the surface. Velzard-san, what else will you be doing besides staying here in Tempest? I can't exactly ask you to work here, you know? However, I'd like to give you a role of sorts. Perhaps it could be similar to Veldora, the guardian deity, I suggested, my heart racing slightly at the thought of her involvement. She paused, resting her chin on her hand as she contemplated. Let's see here. I think Veldora should remain the sole guardian deity of the forest. It's been that way for millennia, and I believe it should stay that way. How about I become your supervisor, Rimuru-kun? She proposed casually, catching me off guard. Are you sure, Velzard-san? I don't think I deserve to have someone of your stature as my supervisor. I responded honestly, my voice tinged with disbelief. Having someone as powerful as her guide me would be a boon, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it might be too much to ask of her. Stop being so modest. As I said, your potential is untapped and immeasurable. Having someone to guide you will help you reach your true potential, she explained, her voice warm and encouraging. Is that so? Well, if you insist, I'll gladly accept, I conceded, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. Her smile widened in response. That's the spirit. You'll do wonders in the future, not that you haven't already done so. But you'll go on to do even more, Rimuru-kun, she declared with enthusiasm, extending her arm toward me for a handshake. Then I'll be in your care, Velzard-san, I replied gratefully, shaking her hand. It wasn't the first time I'd held her hand, but this time I noticed how incredibly soft it was. Being this close allowed me to appreciate her beauty more fully. Her sparkling blue eyes radiated serenity and elegance, reminiscent of the deep ocean. Her hair flowed down like fresh snow, cascading with an ethereal grace. It wouldn't be too far off to call her a goddess. Ada, are you all right? Rimuru-san? You've been holding my hand for quite some time now, you know? She teased, pulling me back to reality. Shoot, I was so lost in my thoughts that I spaced out again, while still holding her hand. I quickly retracted, my face burning with embarrassment. Sorry about that. Velzard desayin. I got lost in thought again. I apologized profusely, wishing I could vanish into thin air. That's something we should work on. As your soon-to-be supervisor, I'll ensure you won't be spacing out too much in the future, she teased, a playful glint in her eye. Why yes, Velzard-san, I replied, somewhat nervously. Sigh. Velzard's endless teasing will be my demise one day. Rimuru-sama, we're here at the meeting hall now, Benimura chimed in through thought communication. Right, we'll be heading over now, I replied quickly, eager to escape the lingering embarrassment. All right, Velzard-san, Veldora, Ranga, Cheyenne, let's go to the meeting hall now. I'm sure everyone is already there, I urged, hoping to change the subject. Everyone nodded in agreement, though Velzard noticed my flustered state and giggled softly to herself. I'm so getting back at her later for all this teasing. We entered the Capitol building and made our way to the meeting hall. My executives were already gathered inside, and as we entered, they simultaneously stood up and bowed in respect. I glanced around the room at my loyal subordinates, a sense of pride swelling within me. Velzard sat at one end of the long table, while I settled at the opposite end, flanked by Diablo and Cheyenne, with Veldora sprawled comfortably on the couch nearby. My executives exchanged curious glances at Velzard, their expressions a mix of respect and intrigue, but they remained silent, allowing me to guide the meeting. All right, thank you all for attending this sudden meeting. I have two things I'd like to discuss with everyone. I began, pausing to gauge their attention. After a brief nod from them, I continued. First, as you all know, I recently declared myself a demon lord and was invited to Walpurgis. After defeating Clayman, I have become an official member of the Demon Lord Council, I announced with confidence, and the room erupted into applause. Once the applause subsided, I continued. Also, the entirety of the Great Jura Forest is now my territory, meaning that all the nations, small villages, and gatherings of intelligent monsters within the forest are under my jurisdiction. Shock and astonishment rippled through the room as the gravity of my words sank in. Truly, then that is great, Rimuru-sama, Rigard exclaimed, his excitement evident. Oh, our territory is now bigger than ever. Our access to resources will be even greater, Hakuru remarked with a grin. So that would mean all the chiefs of the various monster tribes and villages, as well as the leaders of human nations residing within the borders of the Jura Forest, would need to have an audience with you, Shuna pointed out, her tone contemplative as she absorbed the implications. I nodded, my mind racing with the possibilities and responsibilities ahead. Yeah, but we'll discuss that more another time. An event that major would mean holding a massive festival in Tempest, so heavy preparation is needed, I replied casually, and everyone nodded in agreement. Now, on to my next announcement. We'll be having a new member here in Tempest, someone important. She'll hold a position equal to or even greater than mine, so treat her with the same respect you show me, I requested, casting a subtle smirk at Velzard, which didn't go unnoticed. She smirked back, a playful glint in her eyes, as if daring me to elaborate. My subordinates exchanged surprised glances, not expecting me to declare someone equal to or above me in rank, and eagerly leaned in. After a brief pause, I stood straight and locked eyes with Velzard. Ahem, would you like to introduce yourself, Miss Supervisor-san? I asked teasingly, extending my hand toward her. Velzard stood up elegantly, her demeanor effortlessly commanding attention. She regarded me with a cheeky grin, clearly enjoying the moment. Nice try, Rimuru-san, but you'll have to try harder than that, she replied playfully, a soft giggle escaping her lips. Damn it, I'll get you next time, Velzard. Our light-hearted exchange caught the attention of everyone in the room, igniting their curiosity about her identity and our relationship. Heh, I don't back down easily, so I'll get you eventually. Anyway, everyone's eagerly awaiting your introduction, I said, signaling her to take the stage. Very well, she said calmly, her voice suddenly imbued with an air of authority. The room temperature dropped abruptly, and I could feel the atmosphere shift. Velzard unleashed a small fraction of her aura, and the air in the meeting hall trembled in response. Everyone tensed up as the sheer force of her presence bore down on us, creating a palpable pressure that weighed heavily on our spirits. Holy shit, to say her aura is terrifying would be a massive understatement, and this is only a tiny fraction of it. Greetings, everyone. My name is Velzard, the Frost Dragon. It's a pleasure to meet you. Chapter 4, World-Shattering News. Rimuru's POV. The surge of aura lasted only briefly, but the pressure it exerted was overwhelming. The sudden drop in temperature was so extreme that the water vapor in the air froze almost instantly, creating delicate frost patterns that shimmered in the air. My subordinates were in a state of shock. Some teetered on the brink of unconsciousness, desperately trying to recover. Veldora, on the other hand, looked as if he had just seen a ghost. Velzard's demeanor shifted dramatically as she concealed her aura, flashing a carefree smile as if nothing had transpired. The stark contrast of her earlier power and her current nonchalance sent a ripple of confusion through the room. Instinctively, everyone present except those who had met her earlier prostrated themselves on the ground, their bodies reacting to her formidable presence. Velzard-sama! My executives exclaimed in unison, their voices laced with a mix of awe and trepidation. Sorry about that, everyone. I only intended to give you all a light scare, but that might have been a bit much, Velzard said politely as she drew her aura back in, her playful tone belying the true nature of her power. Slowly, the room began to return to normal as everyone cautiously rose to their feet, still shaken by the experience. I sighed audibly at Velzard's antics, which caught her attention, earning me a sly smirk before she sat down with an air of satisfaction. That was definitely more than just a light scare. But what could I do about it? As the tension in the room eased and my subordinates regained their composure, I continued with the meeting. As I mentioned earlier, we will have a new member joining the Tempest executives. Yes, Velzard-san is the new member. From now on, she will be my supervisor, so I expect you all to treat her with the same level of respect you show me. Though, honestly, I doubt I need to tell you that, I added, casually shrugging as I glanced around at their reactions. Their expressions were a mixture of shock and amazement, followed by nods of agreement. We gladly welcome you to our ranks, Velzard-sama. With your guidance, Rimuru-sama will grow exponentially faster and soon reach the pinnacle of power, Diablo proclaimed with a respectful bow, his eyes glinting with admiration. Velzard smiled at him, clearly pleased. Indeed, we are truly honored to have you here in Tempest, Velzard-sama, Benimura added, bowing slightly as the rest of my executives nodded in agreement. Question. Rimuru, where exactly will my sister be staying? Veldora suddenly chimed in, drawing everyone's attention. We could construct a domain for Velzard-sama on the outskirts of the city. It may take some time, depending on the structure's size. I can temporarily pause other construction projects to have more orcs focus on it, Geld suggested, clearly trying to be accommodating. That was a good idea, especially considering her status. But I had something else in mind. It'd be nice to have the top 3 individuals of Tempest living under one roof for the time being. Not a bad idea. However, instead of building a whole new structure, how about we expand my personal home and have her live there for now? I proposed, gauging the reactions. Veldora's expression transformed as though I had just dropped a bombshell, while my subordinates sank into deep thought. Velzard, however, wore the most mischievous grin and giggled audibly, drawing everyone's attention. Shit, she's about to say something outrageous. Ada, aren't you skipping quite a few steps here, Rimuru-san? Already wanting me to live with you despite having just met? How bold. Though I wouldn't mind, you know. She teased, her laughter ringing out like chimes in the tense atmosphere. Evolution into an awakened demon lord. During this evolution, due to the presence of the storm dragon Vel. This woman, I really didn't word that right. Heat rushed to my face as I realized how my words could be interpreted. My subordinates turned to me, amusement dancing in their eyes. A few chuckled or stifled their laughter, while others barely contained their mirth. Veldora, however, looked horrified. That's not what I meant. I didn't phrase that properly, I said, frantically flailing my hands. The laughter and chuckling died down, giving me room to breathe and explain myself. Let me clarify. Currently, the only ones living in my home are Veldora and me. It's not a big place, barely enough for two. Given that the two top brasses of Tempest live together, I thought it only logical for you to join us. Plus, it's a good way for you to keep tabs on Veldora if you'd like, I explained, desperate to clear up any misunderstandings. Fufufu, you're always fun to tease. I accept. And Veldora coin, I hope you behave yourself, she said with a sly smile, her playful tone cutting through the lingering tension. Igriegajis. Felshartne. Veldora affirmed, his voice slightly strained. Well, that's settled then, I declared loudly, clapping my hands together to signal a fresh start. Everyone nodded in approval, but then Shuna raised her hand. Inclining my head, I gave her the stage. Should we announce Velzard Summa's move to Tempest publicly? She asked, her voice tinged with curiosity. Her question lingered in the air, prompting deep contemplation among my subordinates. Good question. There are pros and cons to making such an announcement. If we publicize this, other nations will surely catch wind of it, and the news will spread like wildfire. But that might not be a bad thing. What do you all think? I asked, inviting my executive's opinions. After a few moments of silence, Rimuru finally spoke up, letting the world know that not only Veldora-sama, but also Velzard-sama, is residing in Tempest would serve as an effective deterrent for those considering making enemies of us. It would give us time to bolster our forces even further, Rimuru said, his expression thoughtful. I agree, Benimradano. On top of that, the Western Holy Church is already incredibly hostile towards Veldora-sama, and I'm sure they're catching on about his revival. With Velzard-sama in Tempest, I'm sure that would halt any of their attempts to mess with us, Kaijin pointed out. I turned to Velzard, my concern evident. Will you be all right with that, Velzard-san? Announcing your move to Tempest could attract attention, and foreigners or spies might catch wind of it, I informed her. Velzard remained calm and composed, a confident smile playing on her lips. I have no problem with it. It's about time I let those puny humans know of my presence. While I'm sure that everyone in the world already knows who I am, I don't quite have the reputation that Veldora has, she replied smugly. Everyone nodded in agreement, though Veldora scratched his head awkwardly at the mention of his name. Great. We'll announce it later this afternoon. Rigurd, Shuna, and Geld, the three of you will gather the citizens for the announcement. I instructed them, try to maintain a steady tone. Understood, Rimuru-sama, they replied in unison. Third-person POV. The meeting concluded, and everyone filed out to resume their duties. Rimuru and Veldora led Velzard on a tour of Tempest, showcasing the various facilities and commodities our city had to offer. She concealed her aura as they walked, allowing herself to blend in. The awe in her eyes was apparent. She marveled at Tempest's rapid advancement, especially since the nation had only been established 2 years ago. The revelation that this vibrant city had once been a mere goblin village seemed to astonish her most. During the tour, they sampled an array of dishes and desserts, each more delightful than the last. Velzard savored every bite, her delight infectious. Rimuru learned that Velzard rarely ventured into human nations or explored their cultures and cuisines while residing in the Frost Palace. Most of the food she had tasted before came from rain or misery after their various adventures. While those meals hadn't been bad, they paled in comparison to the culinary delights she experienced in Tempest. As they strolled through the city, their conversation meandered through trivial matters, and Velzard never missed an opportunity to tease Rimuru. Occasionally, she engaged in light-hearted banter with her brother, Veldora, who watched with a mix of amusement and bemusement, taking mental notes of his sister's playful antics as he plotted his escape from their company. Their final stop on the tour was the famed hot springs of Tempest. However, with the announcement looming, they decided to save that for later. Unexpectedly, Velzard turned to Rimuru with a request that took him off guard. "Would you accompany me to the hot springs?" she asked, her tone playful. His cheeks flushed at the sudden invitation, and a flurry of scenarios filled his mind. Velzard's teasing only intensified his embarrassment. Meanwhile, Veldora seized the opportunity to escape, retreating to find a quiet place to read his manga, eager to avoid his sister's presence. The moment arrived for the announcement. Citizens gathered in front of the stage in the city square, their faces alight with curiosity and anticipation, while the executives stood behind the stage, awaiting Rimuru's entrance. Not long after, Rimuru and Velzard appeared, stepping into the sunlight. As Rimuru approached the podium, Velzard stood proudly beside him. Her presence next to their king drew the crowd's attention, and some even recognized her from her earlier tour of the city. Rimuru's POV. I took a deep breath, gazing at my citizens before turning to my executives behind me. The crowd was silent, all eyes on Velzard, who stood next to me with an air of confident poise. Eager anticipation buzzed in the air as I prepared to deliver my announcement. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for attending this sudden announcement. As you may know, I recently declared myself a Demon Lord. After defeating Clayman, I am now an official member of the Demon Lord Council. I declared proudly. The crowd erupted in applause, congratulations ringing out in waves. I felt a surge of pride as I looked around at my citizens, their excitement palpable. Once the applause settled, I continued. Naturally, this means I will have my own territory. The entirety of the great Jura Forest will now fall under my rule, I exclaimed. This revelation ignited a new wave of excitement among the citizens. The great Jura Forest was vast, home to many species and nations, brimming with precious resources. The prospect of controlling such a significant territory meant that our country could prosper like never before. However, that isn't why I called you all here today. I gathered you to formally introduce a new member of the Tempest executives. She holds a position of great importance, arguably equal to mine, and I expect you all to show her the same level of respect that you show me, I said, my tone firm. Gasps of shock rippled through the crowd as they absorbed the news of a new executive, especially one of such high standing. Curious glances darted toward the woman beside me, many already suspecting who I was talking about. I turned to Velzard, giving her a nod to signal that it was her turn to speak. Taking a deep breath, I stepped back. Everyone, I'll let the person in question introduce herself, I said, gesturing toward Velzard. She took a few steps away from the podium, placing herself at the center of the stage. An almost palpable tension filled the air as her gaze swept over the crowd. The once bustling square fell into an eerie silence, all eyes fixed on her. Velzard closed her eyes, a slight smirk playing at her lips as she began releasing a fraction of her aura, which she called Dragon Spirit Haki. In the open space, she let loose more energy than she had during the meeting. Even then, she carefully moderated it to avoid causing harm or unnecessary damage. The pressure from her aura intensified, chilling the air and causing the very ground beneath their feet to tremble. The citizens, feeling her overwhelming presence, instinctively fell to their knees. The executives behind us struggled to maintain their composure, swaying slightly under the immense force of her aura. After a brief moment, she opened her eyes, radiating an air of divine authority that captivated everyone present. Greetings, dear citizens of Tempest. It is a pleasure to meet you all. My name is Velzard, the Frost Dragon. From this day forward, I will reside in this nation and serve as the personal supervisor of your lord, Rimuru Tempest," she declared, her voice calm yet assertive, resonating through the square. Each word she spoke carried the weight of her true might, solidifying her status as a force to be reckoned with among the gathered crowd. "Velzard-sama, we are honored to be in your presence," the citizens exclaimed, their voices filled with awe and respect. Satisfied with their enthusiastic reception, Velzard reigned in her aura, dissipating the pressure that had chilled the air and allowing the temperature to return to normal. This display of power served as a stark reminder of her terrifying strength and the respect it commanded. I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and pride wash over me. Seriously, I'm lucky to have two true dragons on my side. Despite my recent evolution into a true demon lord, Veldora was still leagues above me in power, and his sister was even more formidable. I can't quite grasp what Velzard and even Diablo see in me. They discuss untapped potential and immeasurable power, but never elaborate further. If they're right, then with Raphael's guidance and Velzard's support, I'm confident I can unleash whatever potential they see in me. A smile crept onto my face at the thought, mixed with a twinge of sympathy for those who would oppose us. Sigh, I'm really starting to embrace this demon lord role. As the crowd began to recover from the shock of Velzard's introduction, I cleared my throat, ready to address them once more. That concludes all the announcements I wanted to make. Once again, I would like to thank you all for being here. Have a good rest of your day. Glory to Tempest, I proclaimed, my voice rising above the crowd. Glory to Tempest and Rimuru-sama. The citizens responded with thunderous applause, echoing through the square. Third-person POV. With the announcement concluded, life in Tempest began to resume its rhythm. Velzard's debut became the hot topic of conversation, her presence igniting excitement among the citizens. They reveled in the thought of having a second true dragon residing in their nation. Meanwhile, the news was met with a different enthusiasm elsewhere. Foreigners who had caught wind of the announcement were starting to panic. Some had come to explore the vibrant city, while others had been gathering intelligence on the monster nation. The revelation of Velzard's allegiance to Tempest, coming on the heels of Rimuru's ascension and Veldora's revival, was more than they had bargained for. Humanity had long viewed the Storm Dragon as a harbinger of destruction, and his very existence was synonymous with catastrophe. Veldora's past rampages, which had obliterated entire civilizations, only deepened this dread. Now, a being even more formidable than him sent waves of despair through those who opposed Tempest. While Velzard's reputation was not as notorious as her brother's, she was still the subject of countless tales. Legends whispered of her unmatched power, a force that could shape continents and shake the stars themselves. She was considered the strongest being in existence, second only to the Star King Dragon, Veldora. Spies and foreign diplomats hastily returned to their homelands, desperate to relay the world-shattering news. The balance of power that had existed for so long was on the verge of being upended. Early evening descended upon Tempest, and the city came alive with its vibrant nightlife. Beautiful lights illuminated the streets, and various stalls began to open, each offering delightful treats and wares. Rimuru and Velzard approached the famous hot springs. As promised, he accompanied her to one of the most beloved destinations in Tempest, ready to share a moment of relaxation after the whirlwind of announcements. Velzard's POV. I must say, the nightlife here is even more enchanting than I anticipated. The vibrant energy enveloped us as Rimuru and I walked through the city. The lively atmosphere was a stark contrast to what I had been led to believe. From what Misery and Rain had told me, people usually settled down to sleep or work during the evening, leaving the streets quiet and still. However, the streets were alive with laughter, music, and a tantalizing sense of street food. It was as if the city thrived under the moonlight, and I was drawn into the excitement of it all. Rimuru and I continued chatting, our conversation flowing easily as we bounced between trivial matters, seeking to know one another better. His personality utterly fascinated me. When one thinks of a demon lord, images of a tyrant who delights in chaos and wields power with an iron fist often come to mind. Yet, Rimuru embodied the opposite. Despite his immense power, his demeanor is friendly, welcoming, and surprisingly warm. After a few minutes of walking, we arrived at the entrance of the hot springs. The lobby buzzed with activity as patrons came and went, goblinas flitting about to assist guests with cheerful efficiency. I turned to look at Rimuru, only to find him appearing apprehensive and shy. How adorable. "Are you sure you want to bathe in the hot spring with me?" he asked meekly, a hint of trepidation in his voice. "Of course, Rimuru-kun. As your supervisor, I know this is a requirement and cannot be compromised," I replied matter-of-factly, my amusement bubbling beneath the surface. I had also taken to calling him Rimuru-kun. It felt cuter, and it suited our growing rapport. He sighed, crossing his arms in a defiant gesture. "If you keep insisting, I guess I've got no choice. However," he paused, wagging a finger at me. "I'll be going in my slime form," he said. Hearing his response, I couldn't help but giggle. I seized the opportunity to tease him again, a grin spreading across my face. Ara Rimuru-kun. Is there a problem with you bathing in your human form? Or are you perhaps trying to avoid certain things from happening?" I asked, my voice playful. His face flushed crimson, a delightful sight that made me giggle. That's not it," he stammered, the flustered response only fueling my amusement. "Then what is it, Rimuru-kun?" I pressed, leaning closer, my teasing relentless. He looked as if he might faint, the hint of defeat written across his features. "Your teasing will actually be my end, Velzard-san. If you keep it up, I might fall for you or something. A beautiful woman such as yourself, constantly teasing me, is not good for my non-existent heart," he lamented, clutching his chest dramatically. "Fall for me? That's an intriguing thought. Is that a challenge?" I asked playfully, tilting my head. "Whatever, Velzard-san. Let's go in now," he said, attempting to brush aside my provocation. Satisfied with my small victory, I let out a soft giggle, the atmosphere around us crackling with our playful banter. We entered the mixed-gender bathing area, and to my surprise, it was empty. The high temperature and steam filled the space, creating a cozy yet slightly stifling environment. Despite my aversion to high heat, the ambience was inviting, offering a perfect escape from the world outside. The cute little slime floaties bobbed in the water, adding to the charm. Rimuru transformed into his slime form, hopping into the water with a gentle splash. I followed suit, using magic to remove my clothes before stepping into the warm water. As I sank into the soothing embrace of the spring, I felt an unexpected sense of relaxation wash over me despite the heat. This was my first experience in a hot spring, and I relished every moment of it. Curiously, I noticed Rimuru floating some distance away, almost as if trying to avoid getting close to me. Nice try. Though he was technically genderless now, Rimuru identified as male, a remnant of his past. He had shared this with me during our tour around Tempest, and I found it fascinating. To my knowledge, reincarnation into a different species had never occurred before. But Rimuru was a unique exception, a testament to the strength of his soul, one strong enough to host an ultimate skill, possibly. His self-identification as a male also didn't bother me at all. I found the idea of sharing a bath with him to be delightful. He's adorable, and his attempts to evade my teasing were an easy win in my books. Not to mention, during our earlier conversations, I understood why his people held him in such high regard. Kind and benevolent rulers like Rimuru were rare in this world, where greed often overshadowed the well-being of others. I stood gracefully, water cascading off my skin, droplets glistening in the soft light. With purpose, I walked toward Rimuru, who had yet to notice me. Once I got close, I gently picked him up from the water, pressing him against me. His body was warm and slightly squishy. As he turned to face me, I was met with his wide and adorable eyes. Though I wasn't sure if they were eyes in the traditional sense, they held a captivating depth that drew me in. "Aren't you just adorable, Rimuru-kun?" I teased, patting him lightly. "EHHH. Veve Velzard-san."